What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another late night in the BrewLab with me, Lone Fox, your brewmaster in chief. And tonight in the BrewLab, I'm coming at you with a copy of Rakdos artifacts that won't be the typical one that you would have seen up and down on the ladder. So we've already had a Rakdos sack deck. I think I've already deleted it, where we really focused heavily on the Oni-Cult Anvil and the sacrificing of artifacts. Really nice deck. Still enjoyed playing it for days after I put it up on the channel. Today we're looking at the same color combination with a lot of the same cards as that deck, but it's definitely going in a completely different direction. And David, if you're watching this, the Dragonspark Reactor in here is for you. So without further ado, let's jump into tonight's brew. It's just simply Rakdos aggro. It's incredibly fast if you get the nut draw. So first off, we've got a full playset of the Reinforced Ronin, which is the first piece of the puzzle in this sort of like aggro plan. Hasty 1-drop with 2 power, can keep swinging in. Every end step it returns to our hand. That is good for multiple reasons. First of all, the opponent can't kill it. Second of all, if it's in our hand, it can be channeled for 2 mana, so an uncounterable 2 mana draw card in red is pretty nice. But also, every time a artifact leaves the battlefield during your turn, you create a 1/1 colorless construct artifact creature token. I actually mentioned this in yesterday's video for those of you who watched to the end. So this thing is leaving the battlefield by itself every end step. So you would get an Oni-Cult trigger every time the Reinforced Ronin comes back to your hand. Of course, multiple Oni-Cult Anvils, multiple triggers. The synergies are fantastic. That's just the one card with the one other card. You already can see there's like 3 different things that could happen. You can draw cards, the Hasty Boy, and the triggers on the Oni-Cult Anvil. But it doesn't end there, and we'll get to there in a second. But next up, we've got our first removal piece in the form of Voltage Surge. Makes perfect sense in a deck like this where we have a lot of artifacts to sacrifice. We can have that 1 mana instant speed spell do 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker, which is just insanely good in my opinion. Then we've got a full playset of the Iron Apprentice, which is just like this little guy over here. They just put the same exact text box on a card in colorless because, artifacts was fitting the set better. Here we go, the Star Pupil. Enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter. When it dies, put its counters on a target creature you control. I mean, it's verbatim. But because it's an artifact, it definitely is great in this deck, so it triggers all of our artifact synergies. And when it does die, you can put those, those counters on one of your other creatures, which is great. Then, Dragonspark Reactor. This is the one that I did not include in my last version of this Rakdos artifacts archetype. This time, it's definitely making an appearance. It's so freaking good. I can't believe I missed it the first time. Okay, whenever an artifact, so not one or more or once per turn, it's whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control. So there we go. There's another synergy for the Reinforced Ronin. Again, for the Iron Apprentice, every time one of these things enters the battlefield, you get the trigger on the Dragonspark Reactor. Eventually, you can pay 4 colorless, sacrifice the reactor. It deals damage equal to the number of charge counters on it to target player and that much damage to a target creature. And it's cool that it's player first, then creature. So it's like, it's really designed for going face, and like the fact that you get a creature alongside with it is just extra cherry on top. Don't forget, if the Dragonspark Reactor is in play and the Reinforced Ronin comes into play, you get a charge counter. Then at the end of turn, the Reinforced Ronin leaves play. You get the triggers of the Oni-Cult Anvil, which create these token artifact creature tokens, artifact creature. So it would poop out, based on however many Oni-Cult Anvils we have on board, potentially 3 or 4 more artifact tokens. That will be another 3 or 4 more charge counters on the Dragonspark Reactor. I mean, the amount of counters that we can sometimes get onto this thing in a single turn is quite ridiculous. So yeah, that's basically one of the major win cons. You just let that sit on the board. The opponent is too busy trying to deal with your aggro plan because you've got these creatures that are growing really big really quickly, and you know, some flyers to deal with and things like that. And meanwhile, the Dragonspark Reactor is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until at some point, even if you have like 2 or 3 of them on board, it just gets in. It gives you this sort of inevitability. Like at some point, these things are going to blow and I'm going to lose the game unless I have artifact removal. And I'm going to need lots of artifact removal because pretty much every single card in the deck is an artifact. So good luck with that, opponent. Loving this one. So full play sort of Dragonspark Reactor, and pretty much everything that we have in the deck that enters the battlefield except for the Meathook Massacre and the Hero's Downfall are going to be triggering, and of course the Voltage Surge are going to be triggering the Dragonspark Reactor. So then we've got the full play set of the Oni-Cult Anvil, new cat oven at home, as they're calling it. Don't really need to reintroduce this one. You should all go and look at my Rakdos sack, artifact sack deck. I'll leave a link in the video description. Definitely a really nice brew as well. And yeah, just the amount of things that you can do with this. Either use it sort of during your turn to start off the cascade of token artifacts that you need, or keeping it untapped and doing the block and sack routine on your opponent's creatures. They attack, you chump block with a construct, and then you sacrifice it for value. It's the best to do that on creatures that have lifelink. The opponent wants to attack in with his lifelink creature to gain more life. You just chump block, sacrifice it, they gain nothing. And actually they lose life because of the Oni-Cult Anvil. Then we come to the next card, which is sort of crucial instrumental card in the deck for this aggro plan that we have going on. It's the Patchwork Automaton, a 2-mana 1/1 with Ward 2. I wish it was a 2-mana 2/2 with Ward 2. It would have been probably just a little bit too busted, because a 2-drop with Ward 2 is great. The opponent can almost never get rid of it straight away when it hits the board, and then the following turn it just starts growing and you deploy other threats, and it's you know, Ward 2 makes it just a little bit harder to get rid of. And unfortunately, this doesn't say whenever another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, like the Dragonspark Reactor, because that would have just been so busted. This thing could have grown huge every turn, but it's whenever you cast an artifact spell. So a little bit harder to grow, but still, of course, almost everything in the deck is an artifact spell. Whenever we cast it, we put a +1/+1 counter on Patchwork Automaton. If we have one of those perfect draws for this deck, is like 2 of these in hand, 1 Reinforced Ronin, and a couple of other interaction spells or whatever, because then it's just every turn Reinforced Ronin comes into play, these things get a counter, they just keep growing bigger and bigger and bigger. It's fantastic. Then we've got with a full playset of the Reckoner Bankbuster, because if you're not already doing this in almost every deck that you play, what are you doing? It's that good. And draws you cards, ramps you, you know, eventually crews itself. Just an all-round incredibly good card, and of course is also an artifact, so that we can, you know, do all of the artifact stuff with the Reckoner Bankbusters, ETBs. Then we've got 3 copies of the Meathook Massacre, which is great because we need a sweeper anyway, and then sometimes you can just cast it for 0x and have it sitting on the board. Whenever you sacrifice all of your artifacts and things, you get extra points of damage in with the Massacre. Fantastic. With the Oni-Cult Anvil, these two work very well side by side, of course. Then we've got some instant speed removal alongside the Voltage Surge. Sometimes 4 damage isn't enough. Hard removal can also handle Planeswalkers. 3 copies of Hero's Downfall in the brew. Starting to play this more and more. I don't know, I just don't like playing the 2-drop, the Grasp one that you lose 2 life. And it also clogs up my 2-drop slot too much, and it doesn't handle Planeswalkers, and so I just prefer this. And then Circuit Mender, which is a great little bit of gaining, a way of gaining a little bit of life. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. When it leaves the battlefield, you draw a card. So great sacrifice fodder for all of our Oni-Cult Anvils, Voltage Surge, you name it, because it just always gives you value no matter what it's doing, coming or going. And then we top out with Atsushi, the Blazing Sky, which has 2 death triggers that are both great in the deck. The 3 treasure tokens are artifacts, so they would all trigger the Dragonspark Reactor and, you know, have synergies with the Oni-Cult Anvil, etc., etc. Or, you know, sometimes you just need cards to cast the next turn. You can exile the top 2 cards of your library, and until the end of your following turn you may play those cards. So both of the death triggers are really great, and just nice to have a flyer in case we need, you know, to get in the air. And that's the brew. Super straightforward. The one real cool new addition is this artifact land. So the land is an actual artifact itself. So when you're not casting it, so it won't trigger the Patchwork Automaton, but playing the Treasure Vault will trigger your Dragonspark Reactor. And then, of course, you can sacrifice it for 2x and make a bunch of treasure tokens, which will all, of course, also trigger your Dragonspark Reactor. So we're really just trying, the main win con here is to make this thing huge. We can also go face with the Ronin and the Automaton and Atsushi. We can also do the slow and steady grind, sacrifice things with the Oni-Cult Anvil, and usually the game is won by a combination of all 3 of those things together. We do have 1 Hive of the Eye Tyrant and a Den of the Bugbear in the mana base, and a couple of each of the new legendary lands, as well as some duels and some basics. And that is the deck. Rakdos Aggro Artifacts. Let's jump into some games. Now, as usual, at this point in my videos is when I do a tiny bit of self-promotion. So if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, kindly consider doing so. And if you could like the video, leave a comment and hit the bell icon, then you would really make me a happy lone fox. All right, let's kick some ass. Hopefully we don't run up into too many of these Naya, I beg your pardon, Selesnya enchantments decks, because it's probably our worst matchup. And unfortunately, there's a lot of them right now on the ladder. Oh, whoops, I'm in unranked. Okay, a little warm-up match. Have you guys noticed they've done the patch, the little update that was released yesterday? Absolutely no change. It's still stuck in unranked. And you have to like manually select the mode. Oh, Vehicles. Ward 2. Crew 2. In with the reactor. It's cool because it itself gives itself a charge counter straight away. This returns things from graveyard, creatures or vehicles. I'm still cannot for the life of me make a decent vehicle deck. I've been trying really hard, but to no avail. Could that be a sweeper? I have a bad feeling that that's a sweeper. But okay. Let's get this thing growing. Coming in hot. If he goes for the sweeper, we can just Oni-Cult our own Patchwork with a little bit of a tear in our own eye. Lone fox against the dire wolf. Who's it gonna be? Pity. Cool new card, kind of like Farika's Libation. Okay. Let's just probably try and catch him unawares with the hero's downfall. And draw a card with the Bankbuster. About as good as it's gonna get. Charming fellow. Off you go. That's nice. Badoosh. How do you like them apples? Pity. Might as well attack with your little 2/2. Hopefully there's not another verse. Ah. Let's get the card draw. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Now we get to see some of those synergies illustrated. Still haven't drawn our little Reinforced Ronin. Imagine this was also a artifact. Pilot token. Can sacrifice itself so he doesn't gain the life. And that's game. Just to show that a douche. I could have just also said no, just to show that the land there triggered the Dragonspark Reactor, because it's an artifact actually. Super sweet. Alright, let's switch it up into some ranked matches. See how the deck performs on the Mythic ladder. I've been dropping a little bit, kind of just playing very casually. I'm not too bothered. I've decided I'm going to make a big push closer towards the end of the month with probably just end up playing Naya. That's still the one that's giving me the best win rates. Boop, standard ranked. Let's go. By the way, thanks everybody for your feedback with the new intro. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm glad you all like it. Sure. Mr. Aji. Oh no. Okay. Need to start drawing some lands. We've got 22 in the deck, but it's a very low to the ground, so it's usually been okay. Yeah, we're dead. No third land in sight. Game over. On to the next match. Very nice. Boros Aggro is on the menu, by the way. Definitely got some boosts with the new 4-drop guy, Ryu, Thundering Ryu. Okay, first game. Ranked, got our asses handed to us. Not for abuse. Me neither. Good on you, mate. Okay, we have a third land. We've got the Automaton. I think that's pretty nice. Nice. This is especially good against black, so they just don't have the mana. Blood Chief's Thirst could do it now, though. It's probably poison the cup. Ah, oh, should have attacked. Poison the cup. Yep. I think we'll just go for the Massacre. Ooh, I've got a mirror box deck lined up as well for probably Sunday, janky Sundays. Sure. Can play the reactor and wrong order. Sorry guys, that was terrible sequencing. Should have been the reactor first, then the mender. No artifact removal at all in black, so we're kind of pretty stoked about that. We get to draw a card here if he's gonna remove our Mender. No, I think he's holding the Poison the Cup because he wants to target the Bankbuster. Sure. I love a free card, thank you. Let's see if he scries 2 top. Ooh. Alright, good game. Don't tell me you have a 1-turn kill somehow in there. I absolutely freaking doubt it. Bringing back Sedgemoor. I'll take 3 life, no problem. Okay. Pity about that. Unfortunate state of affairs. Bye bye Atsushi. Okay. Woohoo! Lockaroo. Such a pity about Atsushi. I forgot that the other guy is also a cleric, so he gets the double discard. You know, the double selection. Nowadays just kind of effectively render themselves useless. Okay, can't play that. Oh, nice. Oh, this guy, man. Okay, now watch this. Whoop. Oh, fantastic. And then because we're using this treasure to cast this, we get 2 triggers of the anvil as well. And those will both trigger. Oh my goodness. 6 counters in 1 turn. That I like. There's some sort of exile effect on his lesson board. Maybe the mascot exhibition. He's got the lands for it. But right now we're switching straight into like sacrifice artifacts mode. Sorry, it's not bad.
For the sake of all Innistrad, my will must be obeyed. Blood for knowledge, a fair trade.
Okay, he's gonna go for the... He doesn't have enough mana. It's Ward 2, buddy. Sorry. I'm gonna sack the Apprentice. Put the counters on the Patchwork. And I will sack one of these. Ultimately, he still loses because of the extra damage from the anvil. Okay, let's draw a card. Oh, baby. Atsushi in the house. Nah, we just go like this. Let's put him out of his misery, shall we? Good game. Badoosh. Got him. Definitely a very valid version 2 to the first Rakdos artifacts deck that I put up a couple, maybe 3-4 videos back. If you're debating which of the 2 to craft, I would probably lean more towards this one. It just has more attack avenues. Can't believe that Dragonspark Reactor on the first version. Finally, we got the Ronin and the Cult thingy going down. Ugh, punished for my speediness. Should have played the Bugbear. That was really bad. Terribly sorry. We make mistakes. Leaves the battlefield. Swing. Okay, this is gonna be grindfest. Unfortunately, the anvil can be, the reactor can be vanishing burst. And also they've got that other Rite of Oblivion nonsense. Here it comes, guaranteed. You ready? Okay. Wants to check my hand out. Go for it. Sure. Nice. Back to hand. Triggers Oni, triggers Dragonspark. So nice. Now this is going to trigger the Dragonspark as well. That's a loss.
Could have such power. Aren't I the generous one?
Nah. I'll just rather get the free one off of the Ronin bouncing than sacrificing the Apprentice. We can do that at a later stage.
Oh yes, I know the knowledge you seek.
Let's draw a card. Lolth will get a lot of loyalty, but not that interested.
We will slay our enemies.
Sure. Let's go with red. Vanishing Verse. Sure, man. I would have used it on the reactor, but maybe he's got another answer to that in hand. It's quite likely.
My will cannot be denied.
Yeah, here it comes. Yeah, maybe not. Sure. Store card. And that's game. him. Like, the more grindier, the better. Because they're also just trying to, like, do the kind of similar thing, but our thing's better. I love it, playing Orzhov with that Rakdos sack deck. It's the win rate is very, very high. All right, guys. I think we have arrived at the 45-minute mark, and we can call it a night. Definitely got to see all of the synergies going off there. We got all of the win cons off. I don't think you need to see me play the deck anymore to fully understand what it is that it's trying to do. So I'm going to leave it at that for tonight's video. But thank you all so much for watching. As far as final thoughts and adjustments I would make, there are none. I think it's working really, really well. I hope you agree. We really got to see the like hyper synergistic loop between Reinforced Ronin, Dragonspark Reactor, and the Anvil just going off there. And we managed to actually use the Anvil as the win con, and we managed to get a pretty sizey Patchwork Automaton in a couple of the games. So pretty happy. Probably the card that performed the least is Atsushi. It just becomes a magnet for removal. As soon as it hits the board, it just automatically gets Vanishing Verse, so you don't get the death triggers. But still a really good card that I like to have in the brew. And that's the deck. I will see you all tomorrow for some fresh brews. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is Lone Fox from the BrewLab, signing out. Peace, y'all.